What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today in this video I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do percent in math, because I'm sure that you've heard about it but you just don't know what it is yet. I mean, around the world it's used everywhere. Like if you're paying for a shirt and you get like a 20% discount, or if you buy a car or a house or whatever and you get 7% tax, or even if you go and buy a granola bar or a protein bar which has like, let's say, 7% or 8% of fat. Well, today's video I'm going to be helping you guys understand all of that and all these juicy percentages around the world. So first of all guys, we need to know what is a percent. So basically a percent is very similar to a fraction. And later in this video, we're going to learn more about what is the link between these two. But first of all, we need to know what is a percent. So imagine we had this circle, okay? And by the way guys, if you haven't watched our past videos in the past episode that I've made about fractions, you should definitely watch them because they cover everything. Like, I mean, a bunch of things that we're going to be talking about right now. But again, some things in this video are not going to be spoken about, like, well, percentages. So imagine I had this circle divided in two pieces. If we shaded one piece, this would be known as not only a half but also known as 50%. I'm sure that you've heard many times of 50%. I mean, nowadays we see many examples of where percentages can be applied. We can see them in the contents of food, on like a granola bar or on food packaging. Or we could even see percentages in any product, like especially food products, like as you mentioned. Percentages are everywhere. I mean, even in stocks, it's amazing. I mean, it's huge, like it's everywhere. Anyways, back to the point. Percentages are used everywhere, and this is why it's also very important to learn about them. So please stick around for this video. I mean, it's also important for math class. That's why I'm assuming you're here in the first place. But anyways, so 1/2 is also equal to 50%, or like I said, a half. And so if we had two 50%, two halves, aka two halves, it would make us a whole. Okay, a whole. WHOLE. And so let's imagine now that I had a circle which was divided into four pieces, okay? I took one of the pieces out of the four. That would be 25%. And what is 25% plus another 25%? That would be 50%, you see? So this can also relate to what we learned with fractions. 2/4 is equal to a half, aka 50%. 25% plus 25% equals to 50%. What if we add another 25%? That would make 75%. And what if we add another one of the 25%? Then we would get 100%, which is equal to 1, which is also equal to the whole thing. Let me now talk to you guys about what is the real connection mathematically between fractions and percentages. Now that we talk about the purpose and a key point before even going into calculation. So basically, let's use the example of the 50%. 50%, if we write it in the fraction form, it would be 50 as the numerator and 100 as the denominator. And so this, if we simplify it, as we learned in our past two videos, and if we were to simplify this, I mean, I already know this mentally because I've done this hundreds of times, but this would also convert to 1/2. 1 divided by 2, or 1 is numerator and 2 is denominator. The more correct term, when you're actually going to say verbally, it's going to be a half or 1 divided by 2. Alright, so as you can see, 50% is also equal to a half. So that is very useful information. And so now let's see another example, like 25%. Remember guys, we keep the same denominator 100 because in the word percent, I mean, technically it's percentage, but we simplify it to percent in the English language. But in percent, we separate the two words inside of the word percent, per and cent. Cent I'm sure you've heard in money, would be $0.01. Okay, and so basically in Latin or Greek, I forgot. Okay, but in one of the two languages, cent means 100. That's what I remember. So basically, per cent means, well, per 100. So every 100. You see what I mean? And so 25 divided by 100, or aka 25%, is also equal to 25 divided by 100. And 25 divided by 100 is also 25%. Because we can convert it into that. Because it's 25 out of 100. Like we learned in our first video about fractions. So that's really useful to think of too. And so then, like I said, we can simplify the 25 divided by 100. The top we could say 5 times 5. Bottom, I already memorized this, by the way, guys, because I did this like 1,000 times. Maybe not 1,000 times, but like a bunch of times. And we can simplify 100 to 5 times 5 times 2 times 2, aka 25 times 4. And then we can cross these two, and we would see 1/4. Yeah, so 25 100 is also equal to 1/4. I'm giving you guys some very simple examples that would be very simple to calculate and also very important to memorize. Like 25 divided by 100, you have to know that that is a quarter. Like eventually you're gonna memorize it, so don't try and just read off a page with all of the common percents that you're gonna see in school and memorize them. Just try to understand the way to solve them. Because then in other examples, let's say I have 17 divided by 100. See what I mean? Then stuff like that, you wouldn't really have quarter or simple numbers like that. Then eventually it's gonna get more complicated. I mean, 17 divided by 100, that's not really possible. It would stay as 17 divided by 100. But in other cases, let's say 26 divided by 100, or eventually it could get bigger and bigger. Yeah. And then eventually you could use that to simplify and find the answer. One thing I wanted to say before we get into some other examples and other things is that 0.25 is also equal to 25%, which is also equal to 1/4. So, as you know, when we convert fractions to decimals, aka by actually performing the division in the fraction, we get a number. In our case, with the 25% example, 25 divided by 100, or aka 1 divided by 4, would be equal to 0.25. And so, just by seeing this, any number, let's say, when you're working percentages, of course, anything like 0 point something, that would be a percentage, okay, guys? I mean, eventually, it could also be in the units category. It could be 1.25, for example, which that will also be equal to 125%, which I'm going to cover right now. So just remember, we can also convert fractions into decimals by dividing them. Like I told you guys, percents are also fractions. They're also fractions, so we can convert them to also decimals eventually. Another thing I want you to add is that it's also possible to go over 100. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at two examples. 25, 100. Just remember that's 25%, which is also a 1/4. Besides that, we want to have 168 on 100. Okay, guys? Well, what does this mean? Because one thing you have to have in mind before you even cover what I just wrote is that 100 out of 100, that is equal to 1. You have to remember that, guys, okay? 100 out of 100 is 1, and 0 out of 100 is 0. But for example, an example like 168 out of 100, well, what would that be, right? Like we said, 100 out of 100 would be 1. What if we go above 100 and 168? Like in 100 out of 100. What if we said 168 out of 100? Well, that would be 1 point something, right? Because if we were to divide 168 by 100, actually, let me change the example, the fraction. Let me change it to 150 divided by 100. This would also be 150%, which would also be equal to 1.5. Okay, guys? 150 out of 100 or 150 divided by 100, or 150% is also equal to 1.5, which is also equal to 100 out of 100 plus 50 out of 100, which is also 100% plus 50%. It also works any number which is above 100, like as the numerator, like 150 or 178, or a billion out of 100. That still works. We can still do that. That's a percent, right? If we use a circle example, that would be equal to this. That would be a whole plus 50%. So you see, I can't have a brain and a half. I can't have one brain plus a half of brain. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, guys. It's possible to exceed 100 as the numerator whenever you're doing fractions. I mean, not fractions, percents. Like, it's possible to go over 100%, but then eventually that's gonna be like more than a whole, which is gonna be like multiple parts or like multiple times. Or like, for example, 100% of my brain would be like times 1, okay? But 200% of my brain, that would be like times 2, if you know what I mean, right? Like, I'm using 100% of my brain. I'm using, that's my brain power times 1. 200% of my brain power, that would be my brain power times 2. So yeah, it's possible. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, guys. Very, very informational math video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you didn't really understand it, I recommend you to rewatch the video, maybe. It's not that long. But yeah, I truly recommend you guys to maybe ask your math teachers if there are some parts that you still are not able to find even after rewatching the video, which I doubt, of course. But yeah, I hope they enjoyed the video. I hope that it helps you with your math and helps you overall with percents. And see you next video, guys. Bye!